Namaskar. Today I am going to talk about the lunar eclipse which is going to take place tomorrow night from 1:05 am to 2:24 am. Since this lunar eclipse is visible in India, we all would be taking into account the Sutak Kal, which starts at 4 pm tomorrow and ends with the eclipse at 2:24 am. I am going to look at some astrological observations, predictions which would be triggered off by this lunar eclipse. Remember that the effect of an eclipse lasts around 6 months. It is an arc of around 6 months. We've had a solar eclipse on the 14th of October, and this lunar eclipse is coming within almost 14 to 15 days of the solar eclipse, and that does not augur well for the world and world population at large. This is something that I have shared across many of my videos. In this lunar eclipse, we make the horoscope of the exact conjunction of the sun and the moon, and we see that there are a lot of planets which are on the axis of this eclipse. So you have the lunar eclipse is in Aries in Ashwini Nakshatra. So moon is in Aries with Rahu, with Jupiter, and in Libra we have, which is the axis of Rahu Ketu, in Libra we have Sun, Mercury, Mars, and we have Ketu. Saturn is in Aquarius. From Aquarius, it is casting its third aspect on Aries. So if you see, all these planets are aligned on the Aries Libra axis. Now a couple of very important points, and I am going to share my astrological observations and predictions one by one. These predictions are for India and the world, and will also cover Israel and Hamas, the conflict between Israel and Palestine. I had been meaning to do a separate video on Israel and Palestine, but I am doing it within this eclipse video or podcast, whatever you call it. Point number 1. I have often referred to in my videos of 2022 yearly predictions, and again in 2023 yearly predictions, I have referred to a polarization that is coming up. In both these videos, and I will share the link in the description of this video, I have said that Iran, Russia, this is almost in, I've been saying this since early 2022, that Iran, Russia, North Korea, China will be one lot. USA, Israel, Germany, Japan, Saudi Arabia, South Korea will be another lot. And I've said this I've been saying this for almost 2 years now. And now it's becoming even more prominent, this polarization. Now in this polarization, it exactly remains the same, but we have Germany, France, England joining this lot with Israel and USA. So the polarization of the world is becoming very, very clear into Muslim and non-Muslim countries. However, I am putting Saudi Arabia on this side, Iran on the side of Russia, China, North Korea, and I am saying Saudi Arabia, USA, Israel, France, Germany, England, Japan on the other side. India has clearly taken a stance with Israel, even though India is great friends with Russia. But this is something that I've also mentioned, that Russia and China. India's very good friend Russia and India's worst enemy China are in one lot. So I've always said that it would be strategically very difficult for India to figure out which side to go to. But now it's become very clear with the Israel and Palestine conflict. So clearly at number 1 is that this eclipse will further divide the world and the polarization will become even more prominent. Point number 2. Israel will play a pivotal point in the Third World War. Israel will play a pivotal point in the Third World War. It will spark off from Israel, something that my Jyotish Guru K.N. Rao sir has always been saying. So, post 2030, when Saturn enters into Rohini Nakshatra, we are looking at a large world war looming in front of us. And then it sparks off from Israel. Israel will be, the breeding ground for this Third World War. Point number 3. Across my yearly predictions videos, and I would request you to please listen to them in 2022 and 2023, I have said that a mini world war is coming up within this decade. Even though we say that a world war is coming up in the next decade, post 2030, a mini world war will come up with many countries getting polarized, something that I have said many, many times. 4. Number 4. This is something that I mentioned in a video done in April in 2021. And I will also share the link of that video here. Muslim and Christian countries are going to fight each other, and that will become a trend now. And in this, the Christian countries will be more powerful, and there will be a lot of casualty. A lot of casualty. The eclipse is just going to make these points now, these trends very, very prominent. There are many prophecies in the Old Testament. Until now, they are coming true, including the promised land going to the Jews. This too is a prophecy of the Old Testament in chapters called Exodus and another one called, I may be pronouncing it incorrect, but that doesn't take away from the fact, Hagog and Magog. It talks about this war around the promised land. Another prophecy of the Old Testament, and it talks about a heavy death toll, that corpses will be on the streets for many months. It will take months to clear those dead bodies. That's the prophecy of the Old Testament. And as I said, Israel will play the spark or the breeding ground for the Third World War will start from Israel. It's already started in the sense that the polarization is already taking place. Number 5. This conflict of Israel and Palestine, Israel and Hamas, as of now, will it be 15 days, a month? No. It is clearly going on for at least an year in this current period. Of course, it will later again aggravate into something else, but as of now, give it another year, one long year. So we are almost going till December 2024. This conflict is not going to get subdued. It will flare up and it will continue for one long year, approximately. So this is not ending anytime soon. Israel is and I'm adding it adding it here, explaining this point a little. Israel is a Kanya Lagna, Virgo Lagna horoscope. And this lunar eclipse is coming in the 8th house. The 8th house has natal Rahu in Israel's horoscope. So this will only flare up matters, and the conflict will only deepen, and the casualties will only increase. It is going to be a bloody fight, a bloody conflict. This eclipse is only going to build war. It's only going to cause violence. Remember this. It's not that every eclipse is bad, but certain eclipses at certain periods of time just trigger off conflict and war, and this is one such eclipse. Point number 6. A lot of people tell me you should do a video on Bhavishya Malika. Bhavishya Malika says that by 2026, a lot of world population is going. Well, I have always said this is from 2020 what started as a Khand Pralay, with the first disease, Corona, coming up and its various mutants coming up, did cause a lot of life loss. And these decades, when Khand Pralay comes, then there is a lot of loss of life. Dharma again establishes itself, or its righteousness establishes itself. But this is no less a period. This is not less than, this is a 30 to 40 year Khand. This is not a touch and go. This is not like the disease came and war came and it all got over. So from 2020 to 2050, clearly 30 years. Clearly 30 years is it will be what we call Khand Pralay. In every yuga, there is a Khand Pralay. When the Kal reverses the damage. So if the pravritti of Kalyug is tamsik, then in this Khand Pralay, the pravritti Sattvagun will again rise. Righteousness will again establish itself, and Dharma will again be established. Point number 6, and I hope I'm going correctly on the points, because I might miss if it's 5 or 6 or 7. So I think it's point number 7 now. So to say that it's all going to end in 2026, well, that's absolutely foolish to say so. But yes, it's a 30-year period. Okay? And many Khand Pralay happen in each yuga, and so will they in this yuga itself. Kalyug is not more than 5,200 approximate years old, and we have to go till approximately 432 years. So we have just taken baby steps into Kali Yuga. There are a lot of people and a lot of sects who say that we are just at the fag end of Kali Yuga. Well, that's not the way it is. This is just what we call Khand Pralay. Again, the effects of Kali Yuga will manifest, because we are hardly 5,200 years into Kali Yuga, and we have to go a long way. It's a 4,32,000 year period, and you will find that in a lot of ancient texts. What I'm telling you is there in a lot of ancient texts as well. This was just a point that I shared here with you. Point number 7. Ashwini Nakshatra also represents doctors, Vaidya, and the military personnel. They are going to be affected, which means across the world, many countries, borders of many countries will have conflict. So there will be border conflict for many countries, many countries. Point number 9. Iran seems to be the next casualty. It seems to be that Iran is soon going to be attacked, and Iran is soon going to see a lot of volatility. Point number 10, something that I've mentioned in yearly predictions for 2023-24. Ashwini Nakshatra is in Aries. Aries is a fiery fire sign, there will be, so it's almost like incendiary attacks. There will be a lot of blasts that seem to be happening. And as I said, this Israel-Hamas conflict is not ending anytime soon. Give it a minimum of 1 year. It's going to go on till next December. So there are a lot of fire accidents, incendiary, fiery accidents because of this, which will be triggered off by this lunar eclipse. And of course, that happens in war, and one can see that. Point number 11. Missiles, aeroplanes. Some casualty in air traffic, an air accident. This is a point that I have made previously as well. An air accident, air casualty, missiles firing off. This too will be seen within this period after the eclipse. Point number 11. China and Pakistan will team up to trouble India across its borders. That is going to happen very soon. You will see some trailers in 24 and something serious in 25. Point number 12. Point number 12 is on USA, something which I have been saying across many of my videos. USA is now going to come out full-fledged and fight a war. Something which I said in 2022 April and people didn't believe me. In 23 April I said it again, and now it's almost on the cards. The moment Rahu Ketu turn their axes, well, that is the time USA will move directly into war on the front foot. So from mid-November you can expect that. Point number 12. Ketu is in Chitra Nakshatra. In fact, I had done a full podcast on this. Ketu is in Chitra Nakshatra, and it went into Chitra on the 7th of July 2023 and will remain in Chitra till the 7th of February 2024. I explained how this transit would be very bad for ruling governments, troublesome for nations and very bad for ruling governments. There will be firefighting. Rahu and Ketu are just about to transit into a new axis. Currently they are in Aries and Libra. They are going to move into Virgo and Pisces. The moment that happens and Ketu moves into Virgo, now Chitra Nakshatra, part of it is in Libra, part of it is in Virgo. So the moment Ketu transits into Virgo within Chitra Nakshatra, the effects will become very, very pronounced and prominent, which means further firefighting will be seen from the 20th of November onwards, from 15th to 20th of November onwards, when Ketu moves into Kanya. Of course, there's a difference between true and mean Rahu. I'm not going there right now. Part of the fraternity will say 30th of October, the Rahu Ketu transit is happening. But I'm saying you take it mid-November. From mid-November onwards, Ketu in Chitra Nakshatra in Kanya will only pronounce the effects of war. So be ready for more bloodshed. Point number 13. Internal conflict is only building up for India. From 24 to 2026, almost 3 years, internal conflict will build up. There will again be bloodshed. Protect your turf. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your turf. I'm going to say a point. I'm going to add on to a point here. When the Khilafat movement had happened and Mahatma Gandhi had supported the Khilafat movement, that was a strategic decision by him at that point in time, because he wanted to garner the support of the second majority in India. Now India has come a full circle. That too was an international stance. This too is an international stance where India is now supporting Israel, whereas the second majority in India is not supporting Israel. So while the country has a certain stance, there is a community who has a different stance, which is not in line with the country's strategic stance. So conflict is bound to happen, and it seems to be a bloody conflict. So one has to be very, very, very careful. Having said that, I have always said that India is going to see a very good economic growth in this decade. So that any which ways is there. Okay. When we see this, the axis of this eclipse, so point number 14, when we see the axis of this eclipse within, for India, particularly in the eastern and western parts, we can expect an earthquake. So, largely saying Assam and Gujarat. Point number 14. This eclipse is going to cause earthquakes not just in India but worldwide. Why? Mercury and Mars are at very, very close degrees. Amongst other factors, earthquakes are likely. Point number 14. Weather disturbances, sudden cold, sudden waves of heat and cold, sudden weather disturbances. When we know that the Prakriti is in imbalance and is going to become Ugra, that is going to happen. Point number 15. Note, and I already said that Mars and Saturn are also affecting this axis. Mars is in Libra and Saturn in Aquarius is aspecting Aries. While Mercury and Mars are in Graha Yuddha, in a planetary war. So natural calamities are clearly seen within the 6 months that we have from the eclipse, which is happening on 28th night, 29th morning. Point number 15. Jupiter has retrograded in Bharani Nakshatra, the nakshatra of Venus. It will retrograde and move back into Ashwini Nakshatra and again move forward, and sometime in early February, Jupiter again it's directing at the end of this year. At the end of 2023, Jupiter is directing in Ashwini Nakshatra in Aries. But in the first week of February 2024, Jupiter will enter Bharani again. Jupiter in Bharani will also cause a lot of bloodshed. So you have one milestone which is 20th November, another which is coming first week of February. So it's only building up. These are points which are only building up. Chronologically, it will only build up. From 15th February to April end 2024, 15th February to April end 2024, we will see a lot of conflict in Bengal. We will see a lot of conflict in many regions in India. Bengal seems very prominent in that. Point number 16. Religious fanaticism will only build up now, and one will see the ugly side of religious fanaticism, and it will become very ugly, very, very ugly. Point number 17, Hinsa, violence is only building up after this eclipse, and there will be political instability. So the point really is there will be political instability across the world. Senior political leaders can go in this period, and there will be some sad news of some senior political leaders going away in India as well. So we will have some sad news coming up regarding a political leader. That is very, very clear. Point number 18. The film industry will also have some senior actors going away. So that too is you will see that after the eclipse. And the arc is 6 to 8 months. I think I've covered all points. In 2021, I had said that France is going to fight. 2021 April. And now you will see that France will be actively involved in war. In the coming years, Hungary will play a very important role in inciting war. That's another point. And Poland will be the new graveyard. Or from there the force will rise, which will make the surrounding area, the surrounding countries into a graveyard. So Poland and Hungary will have to be looked at in detail, but something is coming up from there as well. Like a lot of negative forces blasting off from these countries. Obviously you can't see it right now, but they will play a pivotal role, and some trouble is coming up from there. These were some important predictions. I think I've gone till 18. Yeah. I think I've gone till point 18. Okay, now when the eclipse happens, this is a generic point now, a couple of generic points I'm sharing. When the eclipse happens, there was a debate, and there was a scientist who said that, what happens if I eat in an eclipse? I said, nothing is going to happen. Your system will only become tamasic. Now you need to understand that food that you eat is sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. We've always known this. Srishti is trigunatmak, right? So we have rajogun, sattvagun and tamogun. So even food has these three qualities. When you eat in an eclipse, you're not going to die. Nothing is going to happen. Your system will become tamasic. That's all. So some gases will be at play. The metabolism will not happen. It will only cause impure blood, because eventually it's all going to move into your rakta, majja, etc., etc., etc. So don't eat during eclipse time. We follow Sutak Kal, we don't eat from 4 p.m. onwards, but if you're sick and old, etc., etc., if you can't keep a 9-hour Sutak period, then 3 hours before the eclipse, stop drinking, stop eating, no tea, no coffee, no eating food, nothing. I've just explained to you why one shouldn't eat or drink in an eclipse. Correct? Even the food that has already been cooked, we put a leaf of tulsi, which is in that food, so that during eclipse time it does not get impure. Okay? One should ideally take a bath before the eclipse and after the eclipse, and do japa, kirtan or homa, even tarpan, these 4 things during the eclipse period. If you can't do nothing much, just sit, just whatever you're doing, just take the Lord's name. Or just do a mantra for Chandrama. Mahamrityunjay is a great mantra to do during this time. An easier thing is just do the Panchakshar mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Lord Shiva wears the moon, the crescent moon. So nothing better than worshipping him during a lunar eclipse. It is said that one shouldn't comb one's hair or massage the body during a lunar eclipse. So be careful. These are higher order scientific things which basic rudimentary science does not understand. Just like our Puranas say that whenever there is an eclipse, there's a Rahu is smoky, dhumra. Dhumra, that's the word used for Rahu. And when the eclipse happens, scientists say that they actually see that something smoky has covered the moon. Well, we didn't need a telescope to say that the tattva of Rahu is dhumra or smoky. In ancient books, we say one of the words, one of the synonyms for Chandrama or moon is Himanshu, where him means snow. And now NASA is saying that, oh, we found snow on the moon. Well, what you are finding now, we knew it many eons ago. So never disregard the wisdom of ancient scriptures. Never, never, never. The new generation sometimes says that, why should we not eat in the eclipse, etc., etc. So I've just tried to touch upon these topics. And take care. Remember, nothing is a coincidence. I say this many, many times. Nothing is a coincidence. It all happens in the divine scheme of things. Well, you could be born 200 years later, or you could have been born 200 years prior, but you were born within this Kal Khand, when these things had to happen, when these circumstances had to, or these situations had to crop up. So there is a reason why your soul entered the Mrityu Loka at this particular point in time. Why not 200 years later or 200 years before? Why just at this time? So nothing is a coincidence. One just has to surrender to the divine will. And that's about it. Take the divine name and surrender to the divine will. On this note, you might not say this is a happy note. On this note, I will close this topic. Another interesting point, and I will try and do a detailed analysis on this. The Pratishtha of the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya is going to happen very, very soon. In January, during the Shakambari Navratras, from Posh Ashtami to Posh Purnima is Shakambari Navratra. That's the time when the Pran Pratishtha of the Ram Mandir is happening in Ayodhya. Ayodhya is the original Agni Chakra of Akhand Bharat. When that Pran Pratishtha happens, many changes will happen. Many changes are going to happen. They might not seem to be very pleasant in the beginning, but for a new order to establish itself, conflict sometimes becomes necessary. So the Ram Mandir, the moment the Pratishtha happens, a change will be set into motion. That was my final point. Probably the 19th or the 20th point. So I'll call it 20 predictions, because I think I've gone wrong with some numbers. I was so engrossed in telling you what was the next point. So probably 20 or something. With that, namaskar.